Hi, welcome to another edition of TV Set, aiding and abetting the progressive community since 1991. My name is Jim Rathall, and I am here with my two co-hosts, Diane Tierney on my right, and Sally Steep, that is Steep Path, on my left. And we have a very interesting guest tonight, Paul Levy. And I will, since Diane actually located Paul and made the initial contact, I'm going to go ahead and let Diane introduce Paul. So,
Okay. Paul is a Portland author, artist, and healer. He is also the author of the 2006 book, The Madness of George W. Bush, a reflection of our collective psychosis. But we're here tonight to discuss his recent book, Dispelling Wetiko, Breaking the Curse of Evil. Paul, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Paul, I was wondering if in a few words, if you could let our viewers at home know what you're about here.
Sure. Well, I actually am this wounded healer who had a direct encounter with what I talk about in the book, the Wetiko book, Dispelling Wetiko, because that term, is an indigenous term, Wetiko, which connotes the spirit of evil. And I really had, and it was actually in my family, this direct encounter with that energy that almost killed me. And yet the whole time I was taking notes and drawing maps, and it was actually teaching me something that radically changed my whole life. And I realized, wow, there's something profoundly important to shed light on evil, on this darkness that we as individuals play out in our lives, whether it's with our addictions or habitual patterns, and we're playing out whether it's in our intimate relationships and collectively as a species, we're playing out in the world stage. So what I've done with this book is the indigenous Native American people coined the term Wetiko, and I, as this modern person, just tried to translate it into a psychological idiom for people in the West, because it's incredibly a profound idea, and it's pointing at something that's underlying and informing what's actually playing out in the world in all its these destructive aspects. So that's really what I'm about. My whole life is devoted to getting out this work, and that's what, in a real simple way, that's what the book is about.
Great.
I think it's real interesting that at a time when global warming is fast upon us, and we are, our whole government is just really not working, is frozen, that instead of looking within our culture for concepts that will help you to find solutions, you're going to outside the culture, to the Native American cultures, to look at their perspective, to give us a different way of seeing.
Right. No, that
All
I
of these
appreciate that. I
problems.
appreciate that, because it's interesting, because the thing about, there are all these ways I can talk about what actually is this idea of like the Wetiko virus. And one of the things that it is, it's a form of like this actual, like sort of this psychic blindness. And it's a form of blindness that actually believes that it's sighted. And not only does it believe it's sighted, but it arrogantly has a belief that it's more sighted than anyone else. So it's interesting that you bring up the idea of, bring in like some indigenous culture that's not in our westernized culture to help us to see. Because the thing about Wetiko, it really is this form of not seeing. And if I could just say a bit more about it, that, you see, the origin of Wetiko. Okay, first let me take a step back. In some people might know there's like these books, the Castaneda books by Don Juan. And Don Juan says, he doesn't have the term Wetiko, but it's exactly the same idea. He says this is the topic of topics. It is the most important thing that there is to shed light on. And so the thing about Wetiko, it is, in a way, the topic of topics, and its origin is in the psyche, and it operates through the unconscious of our species, of each one of us, and through the part of our unconscious that has this blind spot. And it operates through the part of us that actually, we're always, in a sense, having like projections onto the inkblot of the waking life. Wetiko operates through the projective tendencies of the mind in such a way that we then unwittingly become the instrument to act it out in our life, and at the same time it hides itself from being seen. You see, so it operates, if we don't see it, if we're unaware of it, then it has power and we become subsumed into its energy and unwittingly become an instrument or this vector through which the actually shadow part of the bug plays itself out in our world.
But you said in the book, you said it was important for us to, even though, this sounds very abstract, but you said even though there's this abstract quality to it, and even though we can end up participating in it, you said that we should use examples that we see.
Oh yeah, no, totally. It's not just, this isn't just an idea, this isn't a hypothesis. This is something, whether you talk about what's happening with the whole Middle East, or Fukushima, or Monsanto, or the Amazon, like the rainforest, or the NSA, any of the stuff that's playing out in our world that's creating harm, for our planet's inhabitants, all of us. One could, really clearly say, oh, that is a manifestation of Wetiko. Because the thing about Wetiko is that it's like I was saying, its source is in the psyche, is inside of us, and that's also pointing at that the actual cure for Wetiko is inside of us too. But it's a sort of like this a mind, sort of like a virus of the mind that collapses the boundary between the inner and the outer in such a way that it's a psychospiritual dis-ease of the soul. And we all potentially have it. It pervades the whole field of consciousness. So to say, oh, that person over there, that bad guy, they have Wetiko and we don't, to have that point of view is itself to fall under the spell of Wetiko. Because Wetiko, it feeds off of polarization and off of feeling separate. Okay?
And that to me gets to something very fundamental that I've been looking at as a way to, like, say, our economy. Our economy is based upon separation. It is based upon pulling something to myself for me. And the gift economy is based upon the other. And to me, the root problem with our society has to do with separation, and you speak to that.
Yeah, totally. You see, the thing about Wetiko, it's actually this quantum phenomena. And what I mean quantum, I mean just like, if you look at the nature, what is the nature of like with light? Is light a wave or a particle? Well, it depends how you observe it. In the same way with a Wetiko, it's like this incredible pathology that's destroying our species. And we are actually the instrument for it to destroy the very life support system of the planet with the biosphere, and yet encoded in the pathology, it's actually teaching us something. It's actually this incredible gift that's potentially helping us to wake up. And what it's helping us to wake up to is what I call the dreamlike nature of this reality. And that's something I talk a lot about in the book. And that has to do with when you really inquire into the nature of your experience, you discover that there's actually not an objective world separate from your observation of it. And this is just physics. This they've proven empirically in physics. And they've actually in physics they'll say, yeah, it makes no sense at all to talk about an objective world separate from the observer, in the same way that it makes no sense to talk about an independent observer separate from the world. The observer is the observed. So the way that we perceive reality actually has an influence on the reality we're perceiving. So we actually react to our perceptions. And this is like the Wetiko bug. What it does, it actually it'll implant thoughts in our minds. We'll all have thoughts, but if we think that what we're perceiving in the world objectively exists separate from ourselves and we react to it, that's actually to, in a sense, be reacting to our own mind, to the projections of our own mind, and that's to be caught in an infinitely self-created feedback loop in which we create our own suffering. And that's one way of describing how Wetiko operates.
Paul, this show is about, it's about activists, and you are obviously an activist of a kind. And it's clear from the things you're saying and the way you're saying them that these are ideas that you are so closely and deeply connected with. I would like to know, could you briefly trace for us the events that led you to this?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I'm an only child, and just in real succinct form, my father was very, very sick, and so he was just acting out his sickness, his unhealed, like his shadow and wound, and was onto me at a certain point in my growing up when I was separating. And it created just enormous suffering for me, it was very traumatic. And the suffering was so intense for me that the only thing I could figure out to do to deal with the suffering was to go inwards, was to really just to watch my own mind. Like I quickly figured out I couldn't figure my way out of it. And then I did that for a while, a couple years, hours and hours and hours a day. And then I actually had some sort of awakening. I got hit by this lightning bolt, not from the sky, but inside of my brain. And I went into this complete altered extreme state. And the way to describe that state was I was beginning to have the recognition that all of this is like a dream, that we're having this mass shared dream, that all of us are dreaming up together. And I was so enthusiastic, and at the same time, these unbelievable things and healings would happen around me, and I was beginning to meet my teachers, some of the greatest enlightened teachers of Tibetan Burma, who I've have known for years and have really close with, and particularly when I was around them, these phenomena would happen that were basically physically impossible, that could only happen in a dream. But I wasn't integrated enough because I was in my mid-20s. This was in the early 80s. And so just in my enthusiasm of wanting to share what I was experiencing, I got thrown in hospitals, in mental hospitals, and diagnosed. So during that first maybe under 2 years, between 81 and 82, I was thrown in probably 3 or 4 or 5 mental hospitals. And the whole while I was having spiritual awakening. And the more I was trying to describe what I was experiencing, the more that was confirming to the psychiatrist how crazy I was in this diabolical feedback loop. And so I was fortunate in that I was able to quickly, to get myself out of the whole psychiatric community and connect with my teachers, continue my process of awakening. But then on top of the wound from my father, I had then the trauma of the psychiatric hospitalization, which was just horrible. And it just consumed my family. Both my parents died, having bought into the psychiatrist's version of things, because in their eyes, if you're a doctor, you're an authority about something. And so they both died, convinced that even though at that point I'm in private practice and I was writing and teaching, my mother told me, oh, that's all your hallucination. That's not true, because she couldn't believe me, because I was one-pointedly pointing out the shadow that was coming through my father. And I didn't understand, you see, what was being shown to me was that there's a non-local field that underlies all of what was happening in my family system. And I couldn't believe it. It was like protecting my father. It was protecting the abuser. And the more light I was trying to shed on it, it was like, the more like not just my mother, but the relatives, but my friends, but the psychiatrists themselves, all protected my father, and I became the identified patient. So it was like, almost like as this shaman, like in training, I was making a descent into the underworld while I was in that whole, the psychiatric thing. But at the same time, I was realizing, oh my God, I'm actually seeing something here. There's a non-local field that is actually configuring itself in a way that I was completely unconscious of, and that the majority of people are unconscious of, that's informing all of manifestation. And it was actually, that was when I got introduced to the non-local field. And I just wanted to, just one definition. When I say the non-local field, the non-local is a physics term. And they've shown in physics that this world we live in is non-local, its property is non-locality. What that means, it doesn't play by the traditional rules of third dimensional space and time, that it transcends, we think that, light only goes, 186,000 miles per second, and yet information, they've done experiments that show that information can get exchanged in a way that's way faster, that's instantaneous, that's faster than the speed of light. And that's actually showing that there's no separation of any part of this universe from any other part, that it's seamlessly all interconnected, and it's being called the greatest discovery in all of history as far as physics goes. And that's the nature of this universe, is the non-locality. When you see that, when you see the non-local field, that also can help you to see that this is some sort of a dream, that we're all characters in each other's dreams, and that we're all dreaming it up together. And at the same time, you also, the third thing is when you begin to snap out of that identification of being separate, you realize, oh my God, I don't exist in this isolated way that I thought I did, as like this entity, as this egoic self that's separate from anybody else. But on the contrary, we're all interrelated and interconnected. And that's who we're discovering ourselves to be. And when you see all of those things, the non-local field, the dreamlike nature, the non-separation, that's when you begin to see the Wetiko bug that I'm actually trying to point at.
So
Fantastic.
when did you come up with the concept? When did you connect with the concept of Wetiko?
Yeah, well, like I was just, what was happening for me during the experience with my father and the psychiatric hospitalizations, and then when I got out of that, I was beginning to see the non-local field, and I was beginning to realize, wow, there's like some darker entity that seems to be resisting bringing in the light. And so with my first book, the one that I wrote about, the madness of Bush,
Yes, we
the
do.
madness of Bush.
Studio, could you bring up graphic number 1? It has the cover of that book.
Sure. So in that book, I actually wasn't familiar yet. I had just come across a little paragraph in a book about Wetiko, so I didn't really know much about the whole sort of phenomenology of Wetiko. But I coined a term pointing at what I'm now calling Wetiko, and it's actually ME disease or me disease, and it's a misidentification of who we imagine we are, or another name for it is malignant egophrenia. So I was realizing, oh my God, there's this non-local psychopathology that exists inside the psyche, that exists in the soul of our species, that actually collapses the boundary of the inner and the outer, that synchronistically is expressing itself through the outer world. I was realizing that, I was experiencing that as I was healing from the whole father abuse and the psychiatric hospitalizations. I just gave it a different name, ME disease. And then when I did more studying, and this new book had come out about Wetiko, the Columbus and Other Cannibals book by Forbes.
Right, okay, okay, Studio.
They haven't shown it yet, have they?
No. Studio, could you now bring up photo number 3? Graphic number 3, because that's the cover of the book that you were now talking about.
Right. So that was the book that really taught me about Wetiko, and that's why, it was written by this scholar, this indigenous Native American scholar, and I saw what he was doing. He was taking this ancient indigenous legend and mythology, and more translating it into psychology. And so what I was doing then, what I did in my book is, just as a Western person who's really fluent in psychology and in spirituality, I just took it the next step and translated it into the modern world, fully.
Great. And we have the Wetiko book here.
Which is graphic. Have we shown that?
We haven't yet. So the modern book is graphic number 2. If we could pull that one up just briefly.
In fact, Paul's book is graphic number 2.
Paul's book. Yeah, this is Where is the camera? This is this is Paul's book. I don't want to hold it in front of. Okay, here comes the real thing.
There it is.
There we go.
Yes, we have it on the screen, right behind you, Paul.
Great.
Looking good there. Just a little aside. The whole thing about this is about the your state, your extreme state, and the misunderstanding of the doctors and all this, the not understanding what's really going on.
Right.
I love bossa nova music. I love bossa nova, and I love João Gilberto. He's the guy that invented it.
Right.
He invented it in the middle of a nervous breakdown.
Right. Right.
And so when he came up with this music, he wanted to play it for his father. He took his guitar to his father, played him
Right.
bossa nova, this whole new music that he invented. His father was an opera buff, and threw him in the lockup. Threw him in a
Right.
mental hospital.
Some friend of mine just told me this story. Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
it's interesting. And so while Zhao was in there, and he had to talk to the doctor every day or periodically, and so the doctor could find out if he's making any progress. So he's talking to the doctor, and it's fall in Brazil, and the wind is blowing, the leaves are falling off the trees, and Zhao says, "See how the wind debilitates the trees." The doctor says, "Zhao, trees have no hair." And Zhao says, "Some people have no poetry."
Right. Totally. Yeah. Exactly.
Very
Yes, yes, both are true.
Okay. So with that light-hearted anecdote, I would like to do Roland number 1, please. A thumbs up from the studio if we have that ready to go.
First, there was total information awareness, then the information dominance center, then PRISM, X-Keyscore, and Boundless Informant. We then used cell towers and GPS tracking, then monitored social media connections, bank and insurance information, but only metadata, of course. Now, we unveil our most advanced program ever, Internal Patriot Discovery. Data mining has never been so powerful and so pointed. With IPD Smart Probe technology, rather than comb through personal data looking for terrorists, we look for patriots and determine who are the terrorists by process of elimination. And while all of our previous programs were classified, with Internal Patriot Discovery, we welcome the public. Come, prove your patriotism by voluntarily submitting to IPD so that we may eliminate you from our list of terrorists. The Internal Patriot Discovery Smart Probe was designed by General Keith Alexander himself, so you can be sure it will be a perfect fit for democracy. You can find an IPD center near you and begin the quick, painless process of discovering your inner patriot. Show the world you're not a terrorist. Or, if you value your privacy, we'll be glad to send an NSA IPD installation team to your home. Either way, we'll make it easy for you to prove you're not a terrorist. So make your appointment today, or better yet, we'll make one for you. With Internal Patriot Discovery, we'll make America safe from the inside out. Better hurry. The first 50,000 people to sign up will receive a tube of General Alexander's Easy in apple pie flavor, formulated for maximum smart probe comfort. Easy in offer not available to foreigners, journalists, or government whistleblowers.
We're back. Control room, I just wanted to mention that we will be not showing Roland number 2, so just make note of that. The next Roland that we'll go to when we go to it is going to be Roland number 3, so 2 is not going to happen. So, so Paul, I mean, this whole, terrorist NSA thing, I mean, how does that fit in with the Wetiko framework?
Yeah, it fits in totally in the sense that just the idea of, when there's a separate self and there's like a control grid and there's paranoia and fear and spying, that totally feeds in to the whole, to that identity that's actually not even true, that you know, we exist in separation from each other, and that it's a fearful, you know, this whole, you know, planet. Fear is the major, you know, emotion, and so you know the thing about Wetiko, like I was saying, it feeds off of fear. And that's just one of, you see, because one of the things that about the NSA, if you think back to what I was saying about Wetiko, that it's an inner disease of the soul that actually explicates itself synchronistically through the outer world. So with the NSA, there's an entity that's wanting to totally have control and manage our perceptions and surveil us. That's a reflection of that same potential process inside of our psyche, okay? And you see, that's one of the ways that you actually can really begin to see Wetiko is when, you know, just like a dream, what is a dream but a projection of the mind? It's a reflection. So if you have an inner process and you go to sleep and have a dream, your inner process is going to actually show up in and as your dream because that is your inner process just projected out. In the same way, when you begin to discover that this world we live in is very much like a dream in that it's speaking symbolically, which is the language of dreams. When you begin to actually recognize that what's playing out in the world is symbolically reflecting an actual process and experience that's happening inside of us, that's when you begin to wake up. And that's what I'm pointing at, that Wetiko, though on one hand is potentially, you know, destroying our species, can potentially wake us up, and it all depends on if we have the recognition of what it's showing us.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good.
And you talk about human creativity and how that plays a role in our getting out of this.
Yeah, totally. In the sense, and the way I would like to just sort of contemplate that is that the thing about Wetiko, it's this daimonic energy, and daimonic is a transpersonal archetypal energy that can take over a person. It can possess a person or a group of people or a nation or a species. And then those people who are taken over by that, you know, archetypal sort of that transpersonal daimonic energy, then act it out unwittingly. They become an instrument for that energy. And because it's unconsciously, it's actually destructive. So that daimon then becomes, like, in a sense, demonic. Okay, now etymologically, the word, the daimon, it means the guiding spirit, the inner voice, the genius. Genie, as in, you know, having a dream, I dream of genie. It also has to do with vocation and calling and hearing a voice. All of those things etymologically relate to the daimon. And the point is that if you honor your daimon, and remember, like, Wetiko is a daimonic energy, it's a transpersonal energy. If you honor that, you'll find your inner voice, your guiding spirit, your genius, your vocation, your calling. You'll hear your inner voice, and you'll find what you're here to do. But if you turn away from that calling, that inner voice, from that daimon, it becomes a demon. But encoded in that daimonic energy is the creative energy. So the point is that we're all artists in potential. And to the extent that we're able to tap into the part of us that is an artist and actually able to creatively express ourselves and our experience, then that, because the thing about Wetiko, what it does is it fractures, it creates a disassociation between our perceptions of the world, our experiences in ourselves, and our ability to find words to express ourselves creatively. Or not even words, just like movement or any medium. It actually disconnects us from part of ourselves. So to connect with the creative energy and to become an artist is to actually really heal from Wetiko.
I really like something in your book, the metaphor of the saturation point of sugar and water.
Yeah.
Because
that's a beautiful.
It's a beautiful image. Could you talk about that?
Sure, totally. And the idea is this: if you have a glass of water, and if you take sugar, just like these grains of sugar, and just dissolve them into the glass of water one by one, they just dissolve and dissolve and dissolve, and then they'll reach the point where it's like the saturation point, and you add one more grain of sugar, and all of a sudden a crystal will materialize. And that's an image that is a perfect image for any one of us having the realization of Wetiko, seeing our own shadow, self-reflecting, having the recognition of the dreamlike nature, all however you would, call it, just having a moment of consciousness. Any one of us, maybe even at this very moment, might be that grain of sugar that crystallizes an awakening in the collective unconscious of our species. Okay, so that's a really inspiring point of view, I think.
I agree. That's why I brought it up. Yeah, I had actually found I told you that I had rewatched the movie Dark City, which is one of my favorite movies with Wetiko in mind, and I was amazed at how it was mirroring back to me. Like
Right.
there was a marquee we have.
Studio or control room, could we get graphic number 4 up, please? This would be relevant to what Diane's talking about right here.
And I saw it as what the situation we are in now, as now showing. We don't have it on the screen yet, but it's this marquee, and it says now showing the evil.
Right.
And that's a situation we're in now. But toward the end of the movie, there's another marquee. The theater also greatly improved, and it says "Coming soon, Book of Dreams," and that's what that image for me of the. So now we do have the graphic up of the marquee now showing the evil.
And then there's one more, graphic number 5, that would follow this one, if it's possible to bring that one up. While we're waiting, did you have more?
Oh,
Did you want to say?
and that's the crystallization is like, that's we just get to that place, the Book of Dreams.
So here's graphic number 5. What was the? It says, and on the marquee it says "Coming soon, Book of Dreams."
Yes.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, can I just say something about what you just said? And that is that, you see, what Wetiko has helped me discover is that we're actually co-creating our experience moment by moment. This is a dream. If this is a dream, which all the wisdom teachings, I mean, the Buddha himself, the word Buddha, it literally translates as he who has awakened to the dreamlike nature. And he's basically saying this isn't like a dream. No, this is a dream. Just like you have a night dream and you can recognize your dreaming, you recognize the nature of your situation, you could have that same realization in this waking dream. And so we're actually co-dreaming the dream together. All 4 of us here, or all 7 billion of us on the planet, we're all co-dreaming up this world together. And the thing about Wetiko, though, is that it taps into our intrinsic genius for how we actually are calling forth reality and co-creating reality, and it turns it against ourselves. And like an example being this, like if you're I'm going to invoke the imagination. So say you're actually in a night dream and you're holding a viewpoint in that night dream. Well, if you're holding a viewpoint in the night dream, that night dream has no choice but to shapeshift and reflect back your viewpoint, because it is nothing other than your own mind. And so what'll happen, you're holding a viewpoint, oh, this is the way things are. The dream will supply instantaneously, in no time whatsoever, all the evidence to prove to you the objective truth of that viewpoint, which then confirms to you that, well, I'm obviously seeing what's really true, because now I have all the proof I need. So you become even more entrenched in that viewpoint, so you see it even more that way, and then the dream just reflects that ad infinitum. That's a feedback loop that we become entranced by the creative genius of our own mind. That's what Wetiko does. When you snap out of that spell, you begin to realize, wait a second, I'm the dreamer. I'm the one who's actually co-dreaming the dream, and I don't have to react to my projections thinking they're separate from me. I can actually, create the dream that I want to live in. Yes. And that's that's what Wetiko is showing us. That when I say we're having a mass shared dream, one way of understanding this, imagine, just once again, I'm invoking the imagination. Imagine that you're in a night dream, and imagine that you recognize the nature of your situation, that you're dreaming, right? So you're in this night dream, you recognize you're dreaming. Okay, great, but what about all the other dream characters in the dream? Well, what if 2 or 3 or 10 or 100 of those other dream characters, just parts of yourself, interconnected parts of yourself, if they also recognize that we're dreaming? And they put their realization together and realize, oh my God, this universe we're in, this dream universe, is just a function of our dreaming. We're actually co-dreaming it together. what I imagine would happen is that they can discover, wow, we can put what I call the sacred power of our dreaming together in a way to change the dream. And that's not like this woo-woo philosophy. You can do that in a night dream. You could actually, that's a practice that people do. What I'm saying is that that's available to us in the waking dream. And that's what all of this is about. You see, the thing about Wetiko, it's actually catalyzing our evolution as a species. But if we don't recognize what it's showing us, it's going to destroy us.
Yes. Yes.
And you're talking now about waking dreams, you're talking about night dreams, you're talking about dreaming. And there's an ethereal existence of dreaming. But what you're also talking about is reality. If we interpret, if the only tool we have is a hammer, we see everything as a nail. Or if we interpret our brother as being crazy, and we bring in all of our friends, and we have that perspective, and then we teach that perspective to other people, then that becomes the reality, and it feeds on itself.
Right.
Just as the reality of the Tea Party, which is whatever the reality of the Tea Party is. You know, I'm not totally clear on that because, you know, and that they don't care about what we consider the reality. They don't care about government working because they have their vision of what reality is.
Right, but the thing to be careful about, you see, so when you were just saying, oh, I'm talking about these night dreams and it's ethereal, and then the waking dream, and you know, that word to say like, oh, you know, it's a dream, it's a charged word, it has a lot of meanings for people. But
Yes.
I'm actually talking about that we're having a dream right now. Like in this moment, as we're sitting here talking, all four of us and however many people are in the studio, we're all co-dreaming this right now.
This is
you
one
know?
of my better dreams.
Great. Well, I'm glad. But the thing is, getting back to that Tea Party,
That
that Tea
is
Party.
what I'm trying to express is that when you use the word dreaming, it sounds like just, you know,
Right,
a
but
dream,
that reminds me. Okay, I'll give you an example.
When what you're talking about is not a fantasy, it is reality.
Well, that's because you were so. It
or
reminds
what
me.
we would call
It
reality.
reminds me of a dream I had where I was in the dream and I was aware I was dreaming, and I went up to my
Yes.
dream character and I said, "Wow, we're having a dream," and they said, "Could you use a different term? I don't like that word dream." And I'm like, "What do I do?" You know, this. I'm not saying this is like a dream. The Buddha didn't say this is like a dream.
Exactly.
He's saying this
This
is a
is a
dream.
dream.
And
I
what
get
that
that.
means is that the Tea Party people, they're our dream characters. We're dreaming them up, as horrifying as that is. They're an actual embodied reflection of that insane part of ourselves. Because I just want to go back to one thing. The thing about Wetiko, it's a collective psychosis. And we're in the middle of a collective psychosis of titanic proportions. And nobody's even talking about it. That's what's so crazy about it.
Speaking of collective psychosis on a Titanic proportion, we have another relevant roll-in.
Great, okay.
That has nothing to do with the Titanic.
It doesn't, but it has everything to do with the Tea Party.
Yes.
Okay. If we could go to roll-in number 3, please. Por favor. There we go.
Science funding halted,
That was
NASA
good, Paul.
shuttered, and no end in sight, the exploration of the heavens turns inward with A Voyage to the Center of Delusion. Come to the Tea Party Galaxy, a place where facts are 8 times lighter than on planet Earth, and nothing is impossible. Able Captain Cruz guides the USS Intransigence on an unwavering course of absolute certainty, ready to sacrifice the universe unless affordable health care for the working class is abolished. He will do it. Just ask Captain Cruz's favorite leadership keepsake. Cruz and his crew will stop at nothing to force the Dembots to spend less, even though they have already agreed to fund government at Republican levels. Strong, self-assured Tea Partiers will blow up everything to slow runaway spending. Never mind per capita federal spending has been dropping sharply, for the deficit is rising. except for the fact that it hasn't been rising since 2009. In this rarefied atmosphere, facts don't matter. It is winning that matters. And Captain Cruz and his cohorts are winners. They are brave, decisive Tea Party life forms who have begun this journey and will figure out along the way how to end it. Furloughs, job losses, and economic black holes are but speed bumps on the journey to victory. For on the voyage to the center of delusion, compromise is a long-forgotten word from another fact-based galaxy. Delusion is not a state of mind. It is a negotiating tactic.
Okay, we had a problem here. This is Houston saying in, please. Houston, we had a problem.
You can just say whatever. I mean, you don't have to.
Okay, we are back, and we're coming down the home stretch of our conversation with Paul Levy, and you were just saying something to Paul.
Yes, we're getting to the part in the show where we close up and a call to action, and well, one of the blurb on the book is from Sting, the musician. The world would be a better place if everyone read this book. So there's a call to action right there. And then my notes say compassion in the place within ourselves. Could you speak to that?
Sure, yeah, totally. Because when you're in a dream and you recognize, you see, in Tibetan Buddhism, they say if you have a real awakening experience, it's always the combination of what's called emptiness and compassion. It's never one without the other. And what emptiness is recognizing that you're in a dream, that there's nothing independent, intrinsic, objectively existing, separate from your own consciousness. That's the emptiness. And the energetic expression of that realization is compassion. So the Wetiko dissolver par excellence is compassion. But compassion isn't just smiley faced or, oh, let's all pat each other on the back. A lot of times compassion can be really fierce and set a boundary and just have a fierceness to it. And I guess the thing I want to really make a point to mention about Wetiko is that it's not enough, you see, because Wetiko can act itself out without restraint as long as we're unaware of it, as long as people don't know about it. And so the point is that once we actually find the name, just like in fairy tales when you find the name of a demon, and Wetiko is like a demon, even though, well, I've in the book I talk a lot about that. What a demon really is, it's just, a projection of the mind in a certain way. But the point is that it's not enough just to have the awareness of Wetiko, that we actually have to be active in the body politic. And it's what I talk about in the book, that we have to become what I call a spiritually informed political activist. Because to just be a political activist, and if you're coming from reactivity, because Wetiko feeds off of our unconscious reactivity. If you're coming from anger or hatred, well then what the Wetiko bug feeds off of, coming from hatred or anger. And even if you're the most, you have great intentions as a political activist, you're actually feeding the very evil you're actually trying to fight. If your actions aren't informed by spiritual wisdom. And spiritual wisdom, so to have like a spiritually informed political activist would be to recognize, that we're having a mass shared dream, that who I'm reacting against, it's actually just parts of myself. So I can have compassion for that. So it's like this spiritual point of view cross-pollinates with the political activist point of view. And that's where we can really become an agent who can make a difference in this world.
Okay, I'm with you. In the moment of embarking on an action of some kind, or a frame of mind, whatever, what test can we run on ourselves to know if we are being true or if we are not?
Oh, I appreciate that, yeah. So the thing about Wetiko, it's non-local. And what that means is, so for example, if you see evil out in the world, evil is non-local, which means that it's impossible to see evil without evil being activated inside of you. And the way to understand this, just like with the unconscious is non-local. You can't see somebody playing out the unconscious without your unconscious being activated, because it's in you, it's a reflection. But the point is that once my unconscious gets activated, or once I see the evil and the evil in me gets activated as a result, if I then react out of being triggered, then I'm putting fuel on the fire of that evil. But if I see that evil and recognize in my reactivity, in my being triggered by seeing the evil out there, oh, there's something in me that's being touched, I can self-reflect and look at that. And if I'm then able to actually to metabolize and to assimilate what's gotten triggered in me and integrate that, then I can actually be an instrument bringing light and peace.
It's back to self-healing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You know, because one of the big mistakes that a lot of the well-intentioned spiritual people do, I see this so often, is that they'll focus just on the light, but they're avoiding the darkness. They don't want to even give it any energy. They don't want to look at it. And by avoiding evil, you're unwittingly feeding it. But if you get fascinated by it too much, you're also unwittingly feeding it. And I point out there's a third way. There's this middle way where you actually are able to see Wetiko and how it operates and how it's non-local. It operates inside of all of us. It operates in the unconscious. And when you see it, so instead of not looking at it, you see it, but then as a sovereign being, we have a choice of where we want to invest our attention. And then we can invest our attention in creating a world we want to live in. That doesn't feed Wetiko, that dispels it, and that goes back to the creativity question.
Excellent. Excellent. In the time remaining, are there gatherings, events, books, resources? If someone has been piqued by what we've talked about tonight, we have mentioned the book. I don't know if we'll be able to get the graphic up quickly enough, but it's called Wetiko.
Dispelling Wetiko, yeah.
Wetiko by Paul Levy, and that is for sale.
Yeah, it's on my website. It's on PALS, on Amazon's, and every bookstore hopefully in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a good resource, a good place to learn more about this.
Oh yeah, totally.
Are there any kind of groups or any? Tell me about that.
Sure. So I'm in Portland. I'm in Southeast, and I have all of these groups of people who are actually plugging into that we're dreaming, that we're having a mass share dream, and or having awakening to that.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing this for like 20 years, close to 20 years, of bringing people together. And there's a way of just hanging out together where you follow the dreaming, where you get in sync and in phase with each other in a way where you actually can actually dream each other awake and stimulate each other's the part of us that is awakening in a way that is like this evolutionary, it's like offering that the universe is offering to all of us. So what I'm saying is that there's a way of being together where we can help each other to wake up. And like I say, I have these groups in Portland. It's a little bit hard to get into. I mean, because I have as word gets out, more and more people want to connect with them.
Sure.
But it's something I'm trying to get out to the world because it's available to all of us, that we can actually hang out in a way where we can actually really help each other to wake up. And that's, it's not just like a theory. It's something that I've been, it's happening, night after night in my living room.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah.
Wow. That's good.
Well, maybe it'd be useful to put up the website and let people know
I saw it up there.
where they can
Sure.
find out about
No,
it.
that would be great.
Oh, was it
yeah.
up there?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
totally. And then if I could say, I don't know how much time we have, but there's something that I do want to just mention,
About 3 minutes.
Okay, and that is one of the ways, just from the psychological, because, I go into the book, you can understand Wetiko from the mythological point of view, from the spiritual point of view, how it plays out in the body politic, and from the psychological point of view. And psychologically, it has to do with if we're projecting our shadow, our own darkness. The way that works, and just remember, this is a dream. If I project out my own darkness, well, then what's going to happen? The dream is then going to offer me somebody who's going to embody the very shadow that I'm projecting. So now I have evidence that the shadow really is out there. So I become even more entrenched in that viewpoint of the shadow, the evil is not in me. There, look, that person's playing it out. I have all the proof I need. So then that's the vicious cycle where, I actually dream up this world to actually enact an inner process, because the whole process is a reflection of my being disassociated from my own darkness. And of course, what do I do when I see somebody who's embodying my shadow? I try to destroy them, which is the very reflection of what I was doing to my own inner darkness at the beginning, is to try to get rid of it. And by then trying to destroy the person who's embodying the evil, I become possessed by the very evil I'm trying to destroy. And so I've unwittingly I'm investing more evil into my attempt at trying to eradicate evil. And that whole process, behind the scenes, the Wetiko bug is gorging off of the polarization.
Okay.
Wow.
Sal, anything
And
in the minute
Things are
30 that we've got?
definitely polarized in this country and in just in our culture today.
Yeah, totally.
We have just created a culture where
Politically,
religiously, socially, religiously, ecologically, we have created all this polarization,
Right.
where we feed off of
Yeah, and that's why
and don't communicate with this opposite. This
Right.
Each one has an
Right.
opposite.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and that's why, like, the thing of what Wetiko is showing us is actually that when you inquire into the nature of your experience, you discover, wow, we're actually interconnected. There's not like a firm, hard boundary between the two of us or the four of us. That we depend on each other. We're interdependent, interconnected, not only with each other, but with all beings, with the whole biosphere. And that actually snaps you out of the separate self, because when you're identified with the separate self, the energetic expression of that is fear. All of a sudden there's an other. If I'm thinking I'm over here and you're over there, then there's fear, there's an other, and that just totally feeds into the polarization, and that feeds the Wetiko bug. So the point is to really have the recognition of the oneness.
Okay, so we're we're down to about 20 seconds. Paul, I would like to thank you very much for being on the show and
Yeah.
sharing us with what
Yeah.
you've learned.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you so
Diane,
much.
That was a good score, really. Thank you.
Good idea.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So now it's
Really.
time for International Cartoon Time, and so we leave our mics up for this, and they will be playing on this monitor in back of you. There are cartoons from all over the world, political cartoons. Here we go. Cartoon time. Could you pull up bring up the soundtrack
Volume?
a little more? This is the eye. This one from Italy, showing the eye looking over the world. The whole world is being spied on.
The
Wow,
NSA.
that's funny.
There we go.
I saw it as the eye of God. Just
Yeah, we should be so lucky.
Yeah.
This one from Italy is showing some of the Greek extreme right groups. I don't know what the gun barrel is unless it's the cops. I don't know. It looks pretty dreadful, whatever it is. This one is from Holland. It says Russian for beginners, and it's pirate and hooligan. Here are these nice Greenpeace people that are trying to save the Arctic, and they're calling them hooligans and pirates. This one from Kenya. We see this huge foot coming down on this apparently journalist. It's indicating that there has been a draconian anti-freedom of the press bill passed in Kenya. This one just knocked my socks off. I mean,
wow.
if there's no doubt that fascism is corporation plus government, I mean, this tells it that. Why are we spying on all these other governments? Is to get, financial advantage. This one from Russia, there was some hockey player that, just savaged his girlfriend, and so that was a cartoon about that. This one from Jordan, very interesting, because the purpose of this cartoon is to alert the Jordanians that the internet has consequences, that Fun Google and Fun Yahoo are actually spy portals. This one from Myanmar, the title was Freedom of Think, and it's indicating that people in Myanmar or Burma are not really free to think.
That their
so
thoughts are actually in prison.
yeah, it sounds like
Wow.
it's on the to-do list.
Look at this.
Yeah,
From the Netherlands.
yeah.
The United States of America, big ear.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the cartoons this time were about that. Netherlands, there's Google and Facebook. You know, in the trough. Now we've got NSA. You know, munching on internet user data. This one from Cuba. It's called It's called nuclear plant.
Oh, wow. That's a play on words.
That is a play on words. And this one also from Cuba.
The big ear.
It's maybe a little hard for us to see in the studio, but the guy's head is actually a giant ear. His entire head is an ear.
And of course, he has stars and stripes.
And this one from Cuba. Again, you know, a guy spying on the world, listening to everything that's being said.
With a
throughout the world.
stethoscope. Look at that.
Yeah. And this one from Jordan, United States of America. They're taking out states and putting in the word spy, United Spy of America. So the world seems to be not too happy with our
I seem sensing a theme here.
Peru.
Yes!
This one from Russia. Apparently, the Russian artist felt that the Pope seems to have a positive attitude toward children, which is a change. This one from Cuba. Forbes magazine said that Putin was more powerful than Obama, but then there's the NSA, more powerful than Putin. Kind of a little irony
Or
there.
Obama.
Yeah. This one also from Cuba is like the NSA pulling Obama's strings.
With those electronic cords.
Yeah, yeah. And this is the last one, I think. This one from Cuba, and it says reset button. Paul, check this one out if you can see it.
Oh, wow.
Reset button.
Right.
Flush your brain down
Yeah.
the tube. Wow.
Okay, folks, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining the conversation. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.